Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel. I can't believe June is over already, but you know what that means. It's time for my June book wrap up. This month was a roller coaster of emotions. It was filled with fantasy, we had some romance, mystery, and then just like honestly a few unforgettable characters that are still living rent-free in my brain. And I had a mix of physical as usual and a couple audiobooks. So let's get Okay, the first book that I read in June was Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. This is the second book in the Six of Crows duology, and wow, Leigh Bardugo did not come to play. I finished up my May reading with the first one, Six of Crows, really enjoyed it, and this one did not let me down. The family dynamic in this one, top tier, and heist, and I say heist because it just was again and again and again. And I think that's what made this one so interesting, because it wasn't just like one big one. There was this multiple heists that led to kind of a bigger ending. This one was insane. The heartbreak, wow. This was a really heartbreaking follow-up to this first book. It was a page turner and I could not put it down. I shed a tear or two, and you know that's not hard for me to do, but I don't know. This one got me right at the end, and I genuinely think this book has given me trust issues or two. If you know, you know. The next book I read was This Summer Will Be Different by Carley Fortune. This is my first Carley Fortune book, and to say I'm obsessed is an understatement. I love that it's based in Canada because I'm a Canadian girly. This one had a very small town charm to it. It was based out in PEI, which I'm in Ontario, so that's quite far away from me, so it's kind of nice to imagine. I have been out to PEI years and years ago, but just imagine that kind of summery vibe. This one follows Lucy, aka Bee, and Felix, aka Wolf, aka Lucy's best friend's younger brother. They meet without knowing who the other person is, and it kind of steamrolls from there. The two of them are the chemistry, the buildup. Oh my God, it was so unreal. Also, this had a friend dynamic in it with her best friend and her navigating a lot of life choices and a lot of growing up together. They met in university. This actually really hit home for me because it kind of really reflected my relationship with my best friend. I ended up texting her and saying that this book made me cry because it reminded me of her and I, and it hurt a little bit, but it's okay. I still really liked it. I ended up liking her so much that my lovely husband went out and got me her first book, which I think is Every Summer After, and I have plans to read that in July. Okay, the next book that I read in June was The Missing Half by Ashley Flowers. I absolutely devoured this book. I think I read it in 2 days. This is her second book. Ashley Flowers is actually the podcast host of Crime Junkies. If you didn't know that, if you are really into true crime, highly recommend that podcast. My husband and I listen to it all the time. And one of the reasons I love this book so much is because it sounded just like Ashley Flowers. If you have listened to her podcast and you know how she talks and know how she gets Ashley shone through in this, in my opinion. I had read her first book, All Good People Here. That was her debut novel. This is her second one. I would definitely say this one's better than that one. I think as she's growing as an author, you can see that. This one was really interesting. It followed basically two sisters that each had a sister disappear, Nicole and Jules, and their sisters are Jenna and Casey, and the two of them have to team up, or want to team up, to try and figure out what happened to their sisters. And it was about 7 years in the past when they meet up with each other, trying to figure out once and for all what happened to their sisters. So highly recommend this one. This one also had a really cool twist at the end that I did not see coming, so I don't know, really enjoyed this one. Have you guys read anything by Ashley Flowers? Listen to Crime Junkie? Let me know. The next book that I read was Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Now, this actually was not on my June TBR, but it came out this month and it was all over my social media, and I needed it. I don't know. Look at the cover. It's just stunning. I also really like Taylor Jenkins Reid. I've listened to a bunch of her audiobooks. I've also read a few of her books. She did the Daisy Jones and the Six, which excellent audiobook if you've never listened to it. And I read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and I loved that. I devoured this one as well. This one's really interesting because it's based on Joan, who is it's based in the 80s, and she's a woman in science, which, back in the 80s was not such a big thing. She finally gets a job at NASA when they finally start to include women, and it follows the story of Joan finding herself and who she really is. It's This book had my heart racing and heartbreaking at the same time. I cried really, really hard at this. I will say the beginning of the book really was fast paced, and I was really interested in it. I did have a bit of a lull in the middle, but the ending really cleaned it up and was just stunning. So highly recommend this one, guys. Okay, the next book that I read in June was When Tides Meet by Quintana McConnell. This was an ARC read for me. Really beautiful cover. Basically, it's it's a very emotional. It's very coastal feeling. It's based in Laguna Beach. Um, it's a bit of a slow burn. This book comes out July 22nd if you're interested, and it's a very like behind closed doors kind of romance, if that's what you want, if that's kind of your vibe. Okay, the last physical book I read this month was Daisy Haites, which is the second book in the Magnolia Parks universe. Wow, 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 wow. I think if you've watched my other videos where I first read Magnolia Parks, these characters are so toxic. I can't believe it. They are all terrible, truly. But I'm obsessed. I can't look away. I kept reading. I'm like, why do I like you people? You're all horrible. You all backstab each other. You're all mean and nasty to each other. And I love it in all the best ways. This one was interesting because you get to see more of the criminal background of high society in England. It's Daisy Haites and her brother Julian, who were orphaned at a young age, and Julian raised Daisy, and it follows Daisy and Christian's love triangle. And honestly, wow. And I'm also just going to leave you with this. Julian, that's it. That's the comment. If you know, you know. Now on to the audiobooks I read this month. I listened to two books. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue was the first one by V.E. Schwab. This was my first V.E. Schwab, and I really genuinely enjoyed the story. It was lyrical, romantic, timeless, just to name a few things. Julia Whalen is the narrator, and I just always really like her narration of things. I've listened to a bunch of books that she's narrated, and I've always enjoyed it. This book basically follows Addie, who makes a deal with the darkness and basically lives forever, but she is invisible because no one can remember who she is. And later in the book, she ends up finding someone, and it just follows the story. Really beautiful. It goes between periods, so it goes back when everything started, which is in the 1700s in France, and then to modern day. I think it was 2015-ish area in New York. So honestly, it was a really beautiful read. It wasn't long. Listen, I do recommend listening to this one on audiobook. It was really funny because I really was loving it, but I had a hard time making myself want to put it on. But then every time I did put it on, I'd listen to it for hours. So I don't know. I don't know if it's because it was sort of a sad one that maybe I needed more longer breaks in between, but I genuinely love this one so much, and I can't wait to try some other books by her. I ended the month with one last audiobook, and that was The Little Liar by Mitch Albom. This was actually not mistakes, not the right word, but I ran out of audiobooks. I use the Libby app and Spotify for most of my audiobooks, and I had a lot of loans that I was waiting for. So I needed to find something. I just finished Addie LaRue. So I just went on Available Now, and this one caught my eye. So I went into it completely blind. And let me tell you, ooh, this one was a gut punch. I cried multiple times. This book delivered a lot of little life lessons wrapped up in a really emotional storytelling. It follows three children and an adult, basically, it's kind of four point of views, and their experience with the Holocaust, and what the war, like, it's all about truth, guilt, and forgiveness, and where the war led their lives and how they all came back together. This one hits hard. This one is emotional and raw. I literally cried multiple times throughout this book, and I was at work a few times just sobbing. So I lovely, lovely, lovely story telling. And Mitch Albom also is the narrator as well as the author, and I thought that was really interesting. And I really actually I ended up looking it up because I liked his voice so much. So definitely recommend this one. Important story. And that's a wrap up on my June reading list. Basically, there was 7 books, 2 audiobooks, and honestly, every single one was great. I enjoyed all of them. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these, or if you're planning to. Also, if you have any book recommendations, please, please, please drop me a comment, because I'm always looking for more books. I love all genres. I'm not biased. I like to try them all. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification button to get all my videos. I post once a week here on YouTube, and I'm on Instagram and TikTok, Booked with Juby. I love you all. Happy reading, and thanks for watching. Bye.